Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer 55551, and I am back for this video. I'm going to be taking a look at what I consider my top games of 2024. Now, 2024 did had some good games that come out that year and everything like that. Obviously, there were some that maybe didn't sell it well, or some that pretty much were a dud, though. Concord's one good example, but there was definitely some heavy hitters out there, and ones that maybe not be huge, but still was enjoyable nevertheless, though. So for this one, I'm going to break the video down into 5 parts on this one. The first part will be about Xbox Series X and S and Game Pass, my top 5 on that one. The second one will be my top 5 PS5 games. The third one will be my top Nintendo Switch games. And then my part 4 will be my top 5 third-party games of 2024. And the fifth final part will be my overall pick for 2024. Now, obviously, not every one of these games I reviewed. Unfortunately, some of that is on me, and some of it is a lot of stuff happened that kind of, you gotta balance it, have the right time to do it, to review these games. So I'm hoping to get back and try to review it and everything like that. But, if something comes up, something comes up. I really don't have any control over that situation. But in either case, we'll start off first with part 1, and that has to do with the Xbox Series X and S and Game Pass, though. So obviously, with the Xbox Series X and S, clearly, we've been seeing Microsoft go a completely different direction and everything like that. And I will say they didn't have I would say, at least as far as first-party games go, not counting, Activision Blizzard and Call of Duty, we didn't really see a huge amount of first-party games from Xbox, at least in 2024, or at least the ones that caught my attention, though. There were some out there, like Hellblade 2 and everything like that, but still trying to get around to playing that one, though. But at the very least, I will say Xbox did at least have some games that really caught my attention, including one that happens to be a first-party game that I thought was really neat and everything like that. So we'll do the top 5 of those. At number 5 is Persona 3 Reload. It was kind of interesting to see that Atlus was going back to remastering some of their old Persona games, though. Obviously, we believe that Persona 4 will eventually be the next one up, but Persona 3 was certainly nice to see that one as well. It still follows, in my view, the tired and true formula of the RPG mechanics that Atlus is well known for and everything like that, and it is still an enjoyable game. Nevertheless, I've been enjoying it on my Xbox Series S, and it looks fine even running on the Xbox Series S and everything like that. So at number 5 is Persona 3 Reload. At number 4 is, let's just say, the game Path of the Goddess, for the Xbox Series S and everything like that. This was an interesting title that Capcom basically announced during one of, I think the Xbox Showcase. I think maybe it was either 2 years ago or something like this. It definitely was almost felt like somewhat of an Onimusha vibe to a certain degree. The gameplay was also very interesting, as part of it was action and part of it was tower defense and all. And the art style to the game looked really neat and everything like that. And I have been enjoying the game for a while. I think Path of the Goddess is certainly an enjoyable game, especially you have it on Game Pass and everything like that. Obviously, unfortunately for Capcom, it didn't do very well in terms of sales-wise, which is very unfortunate, because I like for them to do some of these AA games here and there. I'm not saying you can't do any of those AAA games type experience, but it is unfortunate this one didn't sell as well as Capcom had hoped for, though. But in either case, though, if you have Game Pass, I believe it's currently still available on there, though. Path of the Goddess is definitely one you should check out. Number 3 is Dragon Dogma 2. It was very interesting to see this one basically hearing Capcom was basically bringing that title back and everything like that, or doing a sequel to that title and all. And it definitely delivered, at least in some areas, but there were also some questionable decisions I felt Capcom made, such as focusing on ray tracing, which I didn't think was a smart idea in the first place and everything like that. But in either case, though, outside of that, though, the combat is still as enjoyable as it was when the first Dragon Dogma came out and everything. And if you enjoyed the first Dragon Dogma, you'll probably like Dragon Dogma 2. The second one on my top for Xbox Series X and S and Game Pass is Metaphor ReFantazio. This one really, I felt, kind of blew up in 2024 in a way, though. This new one that from the developers of Persona and the Shin Megami Tensei series, Atlas and everything like that. It is definitely a fun, enjoyable RPG. I'm still getting into it, though, and everything, still playing it and all. And I definitely like the settings for the game and everything. I think it looked really neat and everything like that, including some of the art style to the game and the combat. Again, still enjoyable nevertheless. Does follow some elements of Atlas's tie-into RPG formula, but still is a good game to try out. Metaphor ReFantazio is at number 2, and I believe there is still a demo outside for that game. And finally, the number 1 Xbox Series X and S game and Game Pass for 2024 has to go to Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. This one was kind of interesting to see this one out as well, though. I mean, the idea of machine gun games and Bethesda doing an Indiana Jones games was very interesting indeed. And I was very curious to see how this one played, and it so far, based on my time with it, it definitely delivers. The first person view is certainly different, but despite that being different and not having a third person perspective, it still held up very well. It is a little bit different as it isn't as, let's just say, not as action-packed on the same scale as, say, like machine games is, Wolfenstein games, though. But there is still some elements of it still there. There is mostly stealth elements, puzzle solving, and the idea of using the whip ranging as to disarm a person, to even using that to distract like an enemy and everything like that is really neat indeed. And also, I think Troy Baker does a very good job voicing Indiana Jones and all. I mean, yes, it's not Harrison Ford voicing that character, but still, I think Troy Baker does a very good job voicing that character indeed. So, at number 1 on the Xbox Series X and S and Game Pass, that has to go to Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 2, and this one will be my top PS5 games of 2024. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of my look at what I give my top games of 2024. So for this one, we're going to go into the PlayStation 5 or PS5 and all. Now, the PS5 certainly had some, I would say, definitely had a very good 2024. There were certainly a lot of games that definitely did caught my attention, including one that obviously got Game of the Year. I'm sure you probably know what that game is, to be exact. And of course, I mean, yes, they had some misfires and all. Concord unfortunately bombed and was pulled completely, though, and some questions about some of Sony's strategy, such as the whole live service, or maybe focusing maybe too much on AAA type of games, though. But at the same time, there's no doubting that PS5 certainly had some games out there that I think really did very well and everything like that. So for this one, we'll do the top 5, and we'll start off with number 5, which is Grandblue Fantasy Relink. Basically, for this one, it is sort of basically an action RPG and everything like that. I've heard of the Grandblue series here and there, but I was very curious about this one since it was later learned that this one was going to be a PS5 exclusive, at least for now and everything like that. I think it's also available on PC. And while it doesn't give, I won't go as far as saying that this game's going to give the Yeast series or Y series a run from its money, the series I think from Falcom series and all. It still is a fun and enjoyable, AA experience, action RPG if you like those type of games and everything like that. So if you're a fan of the Yeast series, this one is worth taking a look at, though. So Grandblue Fantasy Relink at number 5. Number 4 goes to Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth. Now, I know the Yakuza series is very popular among a lot of folks out there. It has certainly been one that's basically done very well for Sega and everything like that. We've had several different entries, though, including the newest one. I think that's basically, let's say, their take on, Assassin's Creed 4 and all. But the first one, like Yakuza Like a Dragon, was a very fun and interesting take of taking the Yakuza series and put it into sort of like a RPG approach and all, and Infinite Wealth kind of continues that to a certain degree. Yes, there are some certain different things, though. This time the setting is in Hawaii and all that, though, but it still is a fun and enjoyable game nevertheless, especially if you are a fan of the Yakuza series. I'm also seeing lately it's also been going towards the new title Like a Dragon and everything, but in either case, I'm having fun with Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, so that one is at number 4. Number 3 is Rise of the Ronin. Now, this was an interesting game when it was announced as a PS5 exclusive and everything like that. It's also eventually, it's coming out for the PC as well. And it was made from the same folks from Koei Tecmo and Team Ninja that has done, the Neo series and, of course, Wulong Fallen Dynasty. And I will say this one feels more like a culmination of everything that they have worked on, Team Ninja has worked on in the past. Kind of similar to basically how I felt like Elden Ring was kind of a culmination of everything From Software has done in the past and all. And while I won't go as far as saying that Rise of the Ronin is going to overtake Elden Ring, I'm not really sure it will, though. I still enjoy the game nevertheless, though, and I think it was still a fun title indeed, especially if you enjoyed Team Ninja's take on the Souls formula to a certain extent. So Rise of the Ronin is at number 3. Number 2 is Stellar Blade, and this one certainly got a lot of attention during 2024, though. Originally it was called Project Eve, and it was going to be a multi-platform release, but Sony came in and bought the studio and basically had this one as a PS5 exclusive and all. Now, it was interesting considering that the studio, I believe it's called Shift Up, only did up to this point did mobile games. So it was kind of interesting to see how they would do in what they're calling a AAA type of game. I kind of view it more as a AA kind of experience. And it turned out to be much better than I think a lot of people thought it was. I mean, the game definitely had a little bit of a Nier Automata vibe to it, and I certainly don't think that's a bad thing in any way. And from a game made from a studio that up to this point only did like mobile games, this wasn't bad. This was actually pretty good, and I definitely enjoy the game nevertheless. So Stellar Blade is at number 2. And finally, my number 1 PS5 game of 2024 has to go to Astrobot. This is the one that kind of really caught a lot of people's attention. And it's a kind of game that I kind of felt like Sony needed for their system and everything like that. There were a lot of debates over, how Sony has handled the PS5 this generation. Some of the criticisms are justifiable, since some have criticized them wasting, chasing the live service gravy train to basically focusing maybe too much on AAA type of experience. So it's certainly nice, along with Stellar Blade and Rise of the Ronin, that Astrobot was kind of a breath of fresh air for the PS5, as it was basically more towards the platforming games that Sony did back during the PS1 and the PS2 eras, though. It was also very interesting to see this game win Game of the Year at the Game Awards and everything like that. So I definitely am enjoying the game. I do enjoy platforming games in general. I'm very curious to see what kind of message it will send to Sony going forward, though. I would like for them to really maybe look at putting more like AA games out there. Not saying you can't do AAA type of games, but putting more AA games like Astrobot. And maybe this can open the door to bringing back some IPs like Jak and Daxter, Sly Cooper, Ape Escape, Dark Cloud, Rogue Galaxy, maybe Gravity Rush. So I'm hoping the success of Astrobot kind of delivers that and everything like that. But in either case, it is still a fun platforming game. It definitely is a throwback. I look at the history of Sony in general, though, so that's certainly good indeed. So for me, Astrobot is my #1 game in terms of my top 5 PS5 games of 2024. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 3, and this one has to do with my top 5 Nintendo Switch games of 2024. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of my look back at video games, or my top games of 2024. And so for this one, we're going to be taking a look at part 3, which will be the Nintendo Switch. Now, obviously, since 2017, the Switch has kept going, and that's pretty amazing for a system that has lasted that long on the market and everything like that. And as we gear up for the Switch 2, which supposedly it will be, hopefully will be released this year, we'll have to wait until April 2nd to see what is basically shown, or what is basically what the price point and the release date it is. The Switch certainly has had a very good run with a lot of games. Some games have been great, others have really pushed the hardware in a way, in both good and bad, depending on how you want to look at it. But there's no doubt this Nintendo Switch has definitely left its mark in the gaming world and everything like that. And 2024 is no different. While it may have not had the same heavy hitters like The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, and everything like that, it still had I thought was a very good 2024 indeed. So we'll start off with at number 5, which is Zelda, if I'm saying the name correctly, the Jewel of Faramore. Now, this one kind of caught my attention when this was showed during one of the limited run games presentation. They are known for doing basically physical copies of, games that normally you would not see at retails and everything like that. Some folks like what limited run does, some have issues with them though, but seeing them do what is essentially is a original title and being them publishing it was certainly one that kind of caught my attention. And when I saw what was being shown, it was like, wow, they are literally doing one that pays homage to the god-awful Philips CDI games and everything like that. And I was very curious, and I decided to try this title out, and it turned out to be not bad. I mean, it doesn't reinvent the wheel, and most of the mechanics are similar to what you may have seen in other 2D games before in the past to a certain degree. But I still have to give credit to the developers that made this game in terms of paying homage to those awful Philips CDI games. I think that is, gotta give them credit, from the Zelda ones to even Hotel Mario, which is dubbed the best Philips CDI game, but the worst Mario game out there. So I gotta give them credit for base developers from doing this game though, and I thought it wasn't bad or anything like that. As long as you can get past the fact that it's really a one-note joke. Some are gonna get the joke, some may not, but either case, Jewels of Faramore is at number 5. Number 4 is Mario and Luigi Brothership. Now, I was kind of surprised during, I believe it was June's Nintendo Direct, when it was announced that Nintendo was doing, or the developers were basically going to do another entry in the Mario and Luigi series. Now, many felt the series probably came to an end in 2017 when Nintendo released a remake, supposedly remake of the first Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga on the Nintendo 3DS. Unfortunately, that game didn't do very well. A lot point to the fact that it came out around the time the Nintendo Switch just launched, though, and it also may have changed Nintendo's strategy, because originally the idea was the Switch and the 3DS would coexist with each other, but that turned out to be not the case, and they moved forward with just the Switch alone. So it was kind of interesting to see them do a Mario and Luigi game and bring that over to the Nintendo Switch. And the end result isn't that bad or anything like that. Combat is very similar to any of the past Mario RPGs or any of the past Mario Luigi RPG games that you may have played before in the past and everything like that. And the art style isn't that bad either and everything like that. So it's actually nice to see another entry in the Mario Luigi series. Hopefully I'm hoping to see more entries going forward, especially maybe for, the Switch 2 when that officially comes out and all. Number 3 has to go to Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. This one was interesting when this one was originally announced coming to the Nintendo Switch. I think a lot of people were pretty excited to see this game come over, as it's considered to be one of the best entry in the Paper Mario series. We've had other games that have had entries before, and while they're okay, and I don't think all of them are bad, some of them just came off as maybe being too gimmicky for some folks out there. And Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door still holds up in high regards to this day, though. Gameplay mechanics, like I said before, follows the tried and true formula you've seen in past Mario RPGs before in the past and everything like that. But I mean, the combat is still enjoyable. It still has like that theater look to it and everything. The only downside is that the game runs at 30 frames per second, which to me, while not necessarily bad, I would have liked to have had it run at 60 frames per second, even if it meant lowering the resolution. On the other hand, playing on the TV, you do get the 1080p look to the game and everything like that. So there's somewhat of a trade-off, although that depends on your view and your perspective. But in either case, though, Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door comes in at number 3. Number 2 is The Legend of Zelda: Echo of Wisdom. Now, this one was interesting to see because of the idea that you actually were playing as Princess Zelda in this game. And up to this point, Princess Zelda, outside of maybe several games ranging from the god-awful Philips CDI Zelda games to her being playable in the Smash Brothers games to even being playable in Hyrule Warriors and Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, she never really had her own starring role or anything like that. Compared to other characters in the in other Nintendo franchises like Princess Peach getting her own game and last year was Princess Peach Showtime. Toad getting his own game as well, with Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. So certainly it was nice to see Princess Peach get her own game indeed. The gameplay, I will admit, is a little bit different since it's doesn't entirely follow the Zelda formula, though. It still follows it to some degree. You do have, the pieces of heart. Basically, it's the top-down view from the classic 2D Zelda games, for those who may remember playing those games and everything like that. But the difference is that outside of maybe one certain spell that you can use Princess Zelda for combat or something, she doesn't fight or anything like that. Instead, she picks up these echoes, which are different enemies and everything like that, and some of them are used to solve puzzles, others are used for combat purposes and everything like that. So I will admit there is somewhat of a learning curve with it, but it is certainly an interesting take on the Zelda formula indeed, and I'm very curious to see going forward if we could see maybe Princess Zelda maybe in a playable form, like maybe in a 3D Zelda game, or even some absurd characters like Linkle from Hyrule Warriors. Maybe she'll be playable in a future 3D Zelda game, so who knows. But in either case, Legend of Zelda: Echo of Wisdom is at number 2. And my number 1 Nintendo Switch game of 2024 has to go to Unicorn Overlord, the game from Vanillaware and Atlus and Sega, though. This one, I will say I am a fan of the artwork and the style that Vanillaware was well known for, and they have done several different types of games in the past, whether it's Odin Sphere, Muramasa the Demon Blade, Dragon Crown, 13 Sentinel or Sentinel 13, trying to figure out which way that it goes though. And Unicorn Overlord is definitely their newest one. I definitely came away very pleased with this one. This one definitely played more closer to Fire Emblem to a certain degree, and that certainly is not a bad thing depending on how you want to look at it, depending on if you like this gameplay in Fire Emblem or not though. But it is still an enjoyable game nevertheless, and it's definitely my number 1 Nintendo Switch title of 2024. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 4, which will be my pick of third-party games of 2024. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 4 of my look back at video games of 2024. So for this one, I'm going to be taking a look at third-party games and everything like that. And obviously, there were some third-party games that were great, some of them not so great and everything, but there were definitely some that did stand out for me for the most, though. Most of these I mentioned in the part 1 and part 2 and part 3 of my top games of 2024. So this one's only going to have like one new one on this list and everything like that. So we'll start off with at number 5, which is Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Now, this was interesting when this was announced, and that the fact that this was aiming for more of a Metroidvania style of approach rather than sort of the traditional approach that the Prince of Persia game was certainly known for and all. And it turned out to be actually good, especially on the Nintendo Switch. I mean, obviously the Switch isn't the most powerful console out there, and obviously other systems will have better, graphical bells and whistles. But still, this one turned out to be run very well on the Nintendo Switch, even at 60 frames per second and everything. I definitely like the idea of them taking Prince of Persia into a more of a Metroidvania style of approach, and I think that was certainly good indeed. So I like that kind of approach in Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. It is unfortunate that the game did not sell as well as Ubisoft had hoped for, although there are a lot of reasons you could point to that. Some of that does fall on some of the decisions Ubisoft made that kind of put them in a very bad spot at this time, though. A lot of people feel a lot of it is riding on Assassin's Creed Shadow, when that supposedly will come out next month. Supposedly it is. Again, I don't know the official launch date, but it is very unfortunate that a lot of this had to do with Ubisoft, and that's really a shame, because I did enjoy Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, and Ubisoft can make good games for people to enjoy. It's just their reputation really has kind of hurt them, and they've, just like with EA itself too, to be exact though. So very much a shame, but nevertheless though, it is what it is. But in either case, I enjoyed Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. I enjoyed it on the Nintendo Switch. So as far as third-party games for 2024, that it is basically at number 5. Number 4, as I mentioned in the Xbox Series X and S and Game Pass, is Path of the Goddess. That one, definitely a fun double-A experience from Capcom. Number 3, of course, is Sega's Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth. That certainly is a fun game, especially for those who enjoyed the Yakusuka series, and especially those who liked it being in a RPG approach and all. Number 2 is Metaphor ReFantazio. Again, fun game from basically Atlus. And finally, my number 1 game, as I mentioned on the Nintendo Switch, has to go to, of course, Vanillaware's Unicorn Overlord and all. And everything like that. So that is my top third-party games of 2024 and everything. Okay, we'll take a quick break, and then when we get back, we'll get to my overall pick for 2024 and all. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our 5th and final part, and for this one, this is going to be my overall pick of video games for 2024. Now, like I mentioned before, there were a lot of games out there that I enjoyed from each of the systems to third parties, but I feel like these are the ones that I felt were the ones that I thought stood out the most in terms of basically for 2024. Now, most of these, all of them are basically ones that I reviewed, or ones that I mentioned into the other lists as well. So check out the other lists there. And I'm fully aware not everybody is going to agree with my choices, though. Some might disagree with it, some may not. But again, either way, I stand behind this as being my choices of games for 2024. So at number 5, obviously, is Rise of the Ronin. Again, I'm not saying this game is going to overtake Elden Ring in any shape and any form, but I do feel like it is the culmination of everything Koei Tecmo and Team Ninja has done in terms of their take on the Souls-like type of approach, similar to how I felt Elden Ring was the culmination of everything From Software has done in terms of their Souls-like approach. Number 4 is Stellar Blade. Again, it still surprises me that this is a game made from a development team that up to this point has done only basically mobile games. So to see them do like a console release is kind of impressive, and I still think that the game is still very impressive. Nevertheless, Obviously, anybody who's played Celebrate knows what the main selling point is, you know, the TNA part and everything like that, or sex appeal. But putting that aside, it's still a good game if you have a PS5, and I believe it's coming to the PC as well. Number 3 is Astrobot. Like I said, very nice. I think this is the type of game that Sony really needed, though. I do hope that game sold well enough to convince Sony to consider maybe doing more AA type of games on their system and everything like that, and maybe not rely as heavily on either the live service or the AAA type of games. Number 2 is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Very impressive of how Machine Gun had handled that game, especially with Todd Howard, who wanted to do an Indiana Jones games and everything like that. It does open the door to figure out what this means for, say, future games from Machine Gun. Maybe some of these ideas could make their way over to, like, if they do another Wolfenstein game or anything like that, or maybe they come back and they do another entry into the Indiana Jones series and everything like that. But in either case, though, definitely a fun game, especially if you have an Xbox Series X and S and also GamePass. Excuse me. Yes, we know this game's coming to the PS5 and maybe the Switch too, but if you're not sure about that game and you have Game Pass, though, try this one out as well. It's definitely an Xbox game worth trying out. And of course, my number 1 overall pick has to go to Unicorn Overlord. I know I'm kind of beating the dead horse with this one, but I definitely felt that this one was really my pick for 2024, especially with the gameplay being very similar to Fire Emblem in general, as I mentioned in my Nintendo Switch part, though, indeed. And it's definitely making me look forward to what Vanillaware has to offer going forward. Don't get me wrong, I would like to see some of their older games, especially as a Nintendo fan, would like to see some of their older games make their way over to the Switch, maybe the Switch 2 and everything like that. But I am definitely down with any new games that Vanillaware might be working on going forward. So for my overall pick, Unicorn Overlord is my number 1 overall pick for 2024 and all. Okay, this concludes my top games for 2024. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about my top pick for 2024? Whether it's for the Xbox Series X and S and Game Pass, whether it's for the PS5 or the Nintendo Switch, or third party or overall picks and everything like that. Do you agree with what I said on this list in any way? Did you disagree with what I put on this list, though? Were there games that you thought should have been on this list, or games positioned differently on this list? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You could do it through PayPal Me, Patreon, or Steam Labs. Links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!